There's a moment in every man's life when he asks himself a quiet question. Why is she acting like this? Why the sudden distance? Why the attitude shift? Why the mixed signals? Why the hot and cold energy that wasn't there before? She didn't argue. She didn't complain. She didn't confront you. No. She changed her tone. And that's when the test begins. See? Tests don't always come labeled. They don't arrive with a warning. They don't say, "Attention, this is a moment that will define whether she sees you as a man she respects, or a man she can manipulate." No, a real test arrives disguised as confusion, a shorter text, a colder voice, a delayed reply, a sudden shift in the way she looks at you, something small, barely noticeable, almost easy to ignore, except your intuition doesn't ignore it, because your intuition never lies. A woman rarely tests a man out of malice. She tests him to answer a question she won't say out loud. Is he who I thought he was? Or is he the type of man who crumbles when I shake the ground beneath him? Most men fail this moment, not because they are weak, but because they are unconscious. They react, they chase, they explain, they plead, they overthink, they try to fix things that aren't broken, things that were never meant to be fixed. A woman's test isn't about the problem. It's about your internal stability. She wants to see what happens when she breaks the rhythm. And here's the truth most men never hear. A woman will test you the hardest right before she decides whether she can trust you or whether she needs to protect herself from you. That's why her test feels emotional, but it's actually psychological. She wants to feel your center. She wants to feel your calm. She wants to feel your steadiness. She wants to feel that your mind and emotions do not shatter because hers moved an inch. It's not manipulation. It's measurement. And you know what she's really trying to measure? The strength of your internal world. Because every woman knows, even if she never admits it, that the man who cannot control himself cannot protect, guide, or lead anything around him. She doesn't test you because she wants you weak. She tests you because she wants to know if you can hold your frame, your purpose, your discipline, your masculine center, even when she pulls away for a moment to see what you do next. This is where the impatience of men destroys them, because instead of staying calm, instead of holding their posture, instead of breathing through the storm, they break. They text too fast. They over-explain. They send paragraphs. They demand clarity. They crumble at the first sign of emotional pressure. And in that moment, the test is over. Not because she walks away, but because she sees the truth. He reacts. He doesn't respond. Stoic men respond. Unseasoned men react. One comes from strength. The other comes from fear. When a woman tests you, what she's really revealing is the condition of your inner world, your emotional discipline, your mental clarity, your sense of self, your ability to remain grounded when the ground shakes. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Yet most men surrender their mind the moment a woman withdraws hers. Hear me clearly. A test is not an attack. A test is an invitation to rise, an invitation to reveal the man you truly are. She wants to see your calm, because your calm tells her everything. That you are not desperate, not needy, not seeking validation, not threatened by silence, not controlled by emotion, not afraid of losing someone who is trying to shake your center. A woman doesn't want a man she can break. She wants a man she can trust. And the truth is this: she cannot trust a man whose emotions control him. She can only trust a man who controls himself. That's why she tests you, not to hurt you, but to know whether you are who you present yourself to be. Men reveal themselves under pressure. Women know this, so she watches your response more than your words. She listens to your tone more than your explanations. She studies your silence more than your paragraphs. And the moment she sees weakness where she expected strength, uncertainty where she expected confidence, fear where she expected peace, the test ends, and so does her respect. But when she sees the opposite, when she sees quiet confidence, when she sees non-reactivity, when she sees patience, when she sees emotional clarity, when she sees a man who does not collapse at the first sign of tension, that's when everything changes. Because for the first time, she sees something rare. A man who leads himself. A man who doesn't rush to fix emotions that aren't his responsibility. A man who doesn't collapse because she pulled away an inch. A man who doesn't negotiate his worth based on her tone of the day. A man who is calm in the face of uncertainty. A man who is stable when she tests instability. A man who understands this truth. How you respond to her test determines what she feels for you next. Fear or trust, disappointment or attraction, uncertainty or respect. The test behind the test is simple. Can you remain a man when her emotions shift? Or do you lose yourself the moment she changes her tone? Your response defines the rest of the story. And in a world of impulsive men, your calm becomes your superpower. This brings us to the next part of your journey: silence, the response that reveals everything. There is a specific kind of silence that only a Stoic man can hold. Not the silence of fear, not the silence of passive aggression, not the silence of games or manipulation. I'm talking about the silence of a man who refuses to abandon his masculine frame, no matter how confusing her behavior becomes. The silence of a man who chooses emotional discipline over emotional reaction, self-control over self-sabotage, Stoic mindset over impulsive behavior. The silence of a man who knows that patience is not weakness, it's strategy. Most men panic when a woman pulls away, but a Stoic man understands something deeper. Your silence speaks louder than any text you could send. And this is where the test intensifies. Because the moment you stop reacting, the moment you stop over-explaining, the moment you stop chasing validation, the moment you stop responding emotionally to her shifts, she feels it. Even if she doesn't mention it, even if she pretends not to notice, even if she acts unbothered. A woman always feels the moment a man becomes grounded again. Your silence becomes a mirror, and she suddenly has to face her own behavior, her tone, her shift, her distance, her test. Everything she tried to use to shake your center reflects right back at her. That's why silence is one of the most powerful psychological attraction triggers a man can use. Not through manipulation, but through maturity. Because silence forces clarity. And clarity is something many people run from. When you go silent, a woman begins to watch you more carefully. She tries to understand the sudden shift in energy. Is he losing interest? Is he setting boundaries? Is he choosing self-respect? Is he calm because he knows his worth? Is he silent because he's a high-value man who doesn't chase emotional chaos? Your silence makes her ask questions that her ego doesn't want to ask. She starts thinking about you in ways she didn't before. She pays attention to details she previously ignored. She replays your last conversation. She reanalyzes her own behavior. She wonders if she pushed too far. She wonders if she awakened a version of you she wasn't ready to meet. Because silence is not equal to weakness. Silence is control. Silence is clarity. Silence is strength. Silence is certainty. And certainty is magnetic. When a man is certain of himself, a woman feels it. She feels the difference between a man who is reacting emotionally and a man who is responding intentionally. She feels the difference between a man who depends on her attention and a man who stands on his own power. She feels the difference between a man who is afraid of losing her and a man who chooses self-respect over attachment. And the truth is simple. Silence is the ultimate display of masculine emotional control. Not because you're ignoring her, but because you're choosing not to reward uncertainty, disrespect, or confusion with more attention. Silence creates gravity, and gravity pulls her back toward you. At first, she may ignore it. She may pretend to be unfazed. She may keep her distance. But underneath all of that, something begins to shift. Because every woman, no matter how confident, how secure, or how emotionally independent she is, feels the silence of a man she once had emotional access to. Your silence creates a contrast between who you were before and who you are now. Before, you reacted instantly. You explained yourself. You chased stability. You feared losing her. You centered her emotions above your own inner peace. Now, you're calm. You're patient. You're collected. You're grounded. You're controlled. You're unmoved. You become the mountain, unshakable, unmoved by storms, unimpressed by emotional turbulence, and women can feel that shift. They feel it on a level deeper than words, because it changes the psychological power dynamic. When you stop reacting to her test, she is now the one reacting to your silence. And here's the part most men never understand. Doing nothing is not passive. It is strategic. Silence is not inactivity. It is emotional intelligence. It is deliberate restraint. It is confidence expressed through stillness. A man who does nothing impulsively is a man who cannot be manipulated emotionally. Marcus Aurelius said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." Your silence becomes a filter. You only act when your mind is calm, your heart is steady, and your values are intact. And that kind of restraint is extremely attractive because it shows maturity. This is the moment when a woman realizes his silence is not an absence. It is a boundary. She feels something she did not expect to feel, respect. Because suddenly, you're not a man who fractures when she changes her tone. You're a man who remains whole no matter what she does. That is the difference between a reactive man and a stoic man. A reactive man fears losing her. A stoic man fears losing himself. A reactive man gives attention to instability. A stoic man only gives attention to peace, respect, and clarity. A reactive man pursues validation. A stoic man pursues mastery. Your silence reveals which kind of man you truly are. And the truth is, a woman can test a man she does not trust, but she cannot shake a man who trusts himself. That's why silence works, not as a manipulation, but as a demonstration that you choose, self-respect over reactivity, discipline over desperation, clarity over chaos, purpose over emotion, strength over fear. Because here's the reality. Most men talk about being calm, masculine, and grounded. But very few men are willing to prove it in moments that require it. Silence proves it. Silence shows you are not a slave to emotion, not a prisoner of impulse, not dependent on unstable energy. Silence shows you are a man who can stand alone without collapsing internally. And that is where attraction transforms, because that is when she starts to wonder, did I underestimate him? Is he stronger than I thought? What else is he capable of? Did I push too far? Is this the moment I lose him? Your silence doesn't push her away. Your silence makes her see you through a different lens. The lens of a man who cannot be controlled emotionally. This is where the story shifts. This is where the test flips. This is where her mind starts moving toward you instead of away from you. Because now, your silence has awakened something. Curiosity, respect, attraction, reflection. And in the next chapter, you will understand something deeper. The true Stoic response is not silence alone, but what silence prepares you to do next. Silence is powerful, but silence alone is not the whole strategy. A Stoic man does not disappear. He does not ghost. He does not punish. He does not withdraw attention to manipulate. No. A Stoic man withdraws because he knows. The man who cannot sit in stillness is not in control of himself. Silence is the reset button. What comes after the reset is the true test of your character. Because the moment you stop reacting, a new question emerges. What do I stand for? What are your values? What are your boundaries? What are your standards? What type of energy will you allow into your life? What type of treatment do you accept from women? What kind of emotional environment do you build for yourself? A Stoic man uses the silence to recenter himself. He uses it to reconnect with his logic, his dignity, his purpose, his inner stability. And when the silence has done its job, when the storm inside has settled, he takes action. Not emotional action, not impulsive action, not reactive action, intentional action, calibrated action, high-value masculine action. That is the Stoic response. Not loud, not dramatic, not needy, not controlling, but grounded, calm, and exact. Here's what a Stoic man does next. 1. He evaluates the test, not the emotion. SEO keywords: emotional discipline, male self-control, Stoic psychology. A woman's test is not about the moment. It is about the meaning behind the moment. Before responding, a Stoic man asks himself, is this a pattern or a moment? Because there is a difference between a temporary emotional wobble versus a consistent lack of respect, a moment of insecurity versus habitual manipulation, a genuine misunderstanding versus a repeated violation of your peace. A high-value man does not treat every emotional shift as a crisis. He analyzes the behavior like a general analyzes a battlefield, detached, aware, objective. He does not take her test personally. Because most tests aren't personal. They are instinctual, they are emotional, they are subconscious. A Stoic man sees the test, but he also sees beyond it. 2. He asks himself the hard question. The question that separates weak men from grounded men is simple. Does this woman still align with the man I'm becoming? Not the man you were, the man you're becoming, the man who chooses discipline over desire, respect over chaos, purpose over pressure, growth over validation. When you ask this question, you stop thinking like a boy who wants attention and start thinking like a man who values peace. Because sometimes, her test reveals more about you than about her. It reveals where you still react, where you still fear abandonment, where you still need validation, where you still tie your worth to how she behaves. A Stoic man uses the tension to see his own reflection. He doesn't run from the truth. He faces it. He refines himself through He chooses a response that aligns with his standards. This is the core of the Stoic response. Once his emotions settle, once his mind is clear, once his values are steady, he responds from strength, not from insecurity. That could mean a calm, concise message, a boundary stated without emotion, a shift in energy, a change in expectations, or simply continuing with silence if silence is the most dignified response. Stoic communication is simple, firm, clear, minimal. No paragraphs, no emotional dumping, no defensiveness, no guilt, no chasing. Just truth. Direct truth. For example, let's reconnect when things feel more respectful. Or, I'm not engaging with mixed signals. Or, I value clarity. When you're ready for that, I'm open. Or, I don't participate in emotional confusion. Short, stable, masculine. But here's the secret. A Stoic man doesn't state boundaries to control her. He states them to control himself. He speaks to protect his peace, not to change her behavior. That difference is what makes his words powerful. He returns to his mission. Immediately. The fastest way to regain psychological power is simple. Return to your mission, not as a distraction, not as a coping mechanism, not as a performance, but because a man anchored in his mission is unshakable. Work on your craft, train your body, study philosophy, build your skills, level up your income, strengthen your discipline, improve your physical presence, upgrade your environment. Why? Because a man without purpose clings to women for identity. A man with purpose attracts women effortlessly because he radiates direction. Women test men to see if they have a mission. When you return to your mission instead of chasing her emotionally, you show her what you truly are. A man moving forward with or without her. And that energy is magnetic. It shifts the dynamic instantly. Every test has a second stage, the silence stage, the observation stage. Because when a Stoic man doesn't react, when he stays silent, when he stays grounded, she reveals her truth. She will either recalibrate, reconnect, respect your silence, or remove herself. And here's the truth. A woman who cares will not leave silence unanswered. A woman who respects you will not let distance grow indefinitely. A woman who values you will close the gap. She will reach out subtly. She will become warm again. She will ask questions. She will check your energy. She will try to reconnect. Because women are drawn to men who remain in control of their emotions. Your calm invites her back into clarity. Your silence reveals her intentions. Your consistency exposes her character. This is what the Stoics understood. You learn more about a person by watching their behavior in your silence than in your attention. Silence filters. Silence clarifies. Silence reveals truth. He stays unavailable to chaos, always available to peace. This is the Stoic standard. A woman can return. A woman can reconnect. A woman can soften her energy. But if she returns with drama games, inconsistency, testing, disrespect, emotional chaos, then a Stoic man does not engage. Not because he's punishing her, but because he simply does not live at that emotional frequency anymore. He has evolved past it. He is calm. He is centered. He is sovereign. He is grounded. He is selective. He is a high-value man who protects his peace like a kingdom. This is the true Stoic response. You respond in alignment with the man you are becoming, not the man your emotions used to be. And that is exactly what separates you from 99% of men. This is why your presence becomes powerful. This is why your silence carries weight. This is why she starts to see you differently. Not as a man who can be broken, but as a man who has built himself. And in chapter you will see what happens next. What she feels when your silence begins to reshape the entire dynamic. If you're ready, I will deliver. There is a moment, subtle, quiet, unseen, when everything shifts. A moment she never expected, a moment she didn't plan, a moment she didn't prepare for. The moment your silence stops feeling like a reaction and starts feeling like a consequence. At first she thought you were just being distant, a little emotional, maybe annoyed, maybe frustrated, maybe in your feelings. She assumed you would break. She assumed you would reach out. She assumed you would do what most men do. Chase, explain, apologize, double text, seek reassurance. Try to restore harmony, but you didn't. You didn't fold. You didn't pursue. You didn't reach back for the connection she disrupted. And that's when she feels it. The shift. Because your silence no longer feels like avoidance. It feels like evolution. She doesn't know how to process this at first. She doesn't know what to call it. She doesn't know what emotion it triggers. All she knows is something has changed in the way you respond to her energy. This is the moment. She begins to feel the consequences of her test, not punishment. A consequence, not spite. A mirror, not revenge, reality. Your silence becomes the reflection of her own behavior, and suddenly, she feels what you once felt. Uncertainty, confusion, curiosity, a shift in emotional gravity. This is one of the deepest truths in female psychology. A woman never fears losing a man until he becomes the man she could actually lose. Your silence awakened that possibility, not because you threatened it, not because you announced it, not because you tried to make her jealous, but because you chose yourself. Self-respect is louder than any text. Discipline is more attractive than flirting. Masculine calm is more powerful than emotional pursuit. And she can feel that. Every woman can feel when a man's center returns to him. She feels it subconsciously, before she understands it logically. This is the stage where panic begins quietly. She checks your messages. She checks your online activity. She replays your last interaction. She tries to convince herself that you're just busy. But deep down, she knows it's not that. Because your energy changed. Before, you were predictable. Always available, emotionally accessible, responsive, present. Now, you're controlled, measured, calm, unbothered, detached in the best way. This unsettles her, not because she wants control, but because she realizes she may have taken your presence for granted. She wonders, did I push too far? Is he losing interest? Wait, is he actually okay without me? Did he really stop reacting? Is he becoming stronger than before? This is where attraction begins to rebuild, not on emotion, but on respect. Because respect is the foundation of feminine attraction, and silence creates that respect. As your silence continues, she enters the stage of reevaluation. She starts to look at you differently. She thinks about the way you carry yourself, your calm responses, your stable energy, your discipline, your lack of emotional reactivity, your masculine frame that she tried to shake and failed. This moment is powerful, because now she is realizing, he's not who I thought, he's stronger. This is where she starts to reanalyze everything she believed she understood about you. She looks for signs that you're still emotionally available, and she can't find them. That uncertainty creates attraction. Why? Because uncertainty is the birthplace of curiosity, and curiosity is the gateway to desire. You didn't try to get her back. You didn't rush to reassure her. You didn't cling to the connection. You just stayed still in your masculine center. And stillness is louder than pursuit. This is where it begins to hit her emotionally. Because silence is not empty. Silence is space. Space creates contrast. Contrast creates awareness. She begins to feel the absence of your attention, not because you were clingy, but because you were consistent. Your presence had weight. Your energy had direction. Your attention had meaning. And now that it's gone, she feels the space you left behind. Not as relief, not as freedom, as loss. She starts remembering your kindness, your presence, your stability, your voice, your reassurances, your effort, your reliability, your masculine calm. And for the first time, she feels what you once felt, the ache of uncertainty. This is where the test begins to turn around on her. Her psychology begins to shift from, will he chase me? To, did I push away a man who was actually good for me? This is powerful. This is primal. This is where attraction rebuilds not on emotion, but on realization. This is the stage where the silence becomes undeniable. She sees you posting less, talking less, reacting less, available less. You are focused, sharp, purpose-driven, mature, busy building yourself. And suddenly, she sees what she couldn't see before. You were never attached to her. You were attached to the version of yourself you were becoming with her in your life. The man you're becoming didn't disappear. He simply no longer needs her validation to grow. This is where fear enters her heart. Not fear of losing you. Fear of being forgotten by you. Women don't fear rejection. They fear irrelevance. Your silence makes her feel replaceable, and that awakens something rare and powerful. Desire. Because the man she once assumed would always be available is now the man she realizes she might lose. This is where her ego breaks, not in pain, but in clarity. She softens, her tone changes, her messages shift, her questions become warmer, her energy becomes feminine again. She may reach out casually, or subtly, or directly. But the intention is the same. She wants to know if the door is still open. She wants to feel the connection again. She wants to feel your presence again. She wants to feel your masculine energy again. Because now, your silence has turned into strength. Your absence has turned into attraction. Your stillness has turned into power. And this is the moment most men ruin. They break the frame. They over-celebrate her return. They react with excitement. They lose the discipline that earned her respect. But a Stoic man does something different. He does not chase her return. He does not jump into validation. He does not lose himself in the relief of attention. He remains calm. Because the power was never in the silence. The power was in who he became during it. And in the next chapter, you will understand. Every test, every shift, every silence, every moment of confusion reveals a truth about her, a truth about you, a truth about the connection, a truth about where you stand as a man. Most men rush to fix the test. Stoic men look for the lesson in it, because tests aren't obstacles. They are clarifiers. They show you who you're dealing with and who you are becoming. This chapter is where we break down what the test actually reveals. Not in emotion, not in fear, not in ego. Through Stoic clarity, through masculine psychology, through self-mastery. When a woman tests you, she's not attacking you. She is exposing the places where you still react emotionally instead of responding intentionally. Your impatience, your anxiety, your fear of losing her, your insecurity, your need for reassurance, your desire for approval, your attachment to validation. Her test shines a light on the cracks in your armor, not to break you, but to show you what needs strengthening. Think of it like iron in fire. Heat does not destroy the metal. Heat reveals its true composition. The test is heat. Your reactions reveal the composition. A Stoic man doesn't get angry at the test. He asks, why did that trigger me? What fear was activated? What insecurity was exposed? What part of me still needs mastery? Because every test is really about you versus you. She simply happens to be the one holding the mirror. A woman's test is not about control. It's about clarity. Women test men to understand a simple question. Is this a man I can respect? Respect is the foundation of feminine attraction. You can have chemistry, you can have passion, you can have desire, but without respect, none of it lasts. How she tests you and how she responds to your silence reveals her relationship with respect. Because here's the truth. A woman who respects you does not test you to destroy the connection. She tests you to make sure you are who she believed you were. She tests your consistency, confidence, self-respect, principles, boundaries, masculine frame, emotional stability, leadership, energy. And your response reveals whether she can trust you emotionally. Women don't trust weakness, not because they're cruel, but because weakness creates chaos. A woman wants to feel physically safe, emotionally secure, and psychologically guided. She cannot feel that with a man whose emotions collapse at the slightest pressure. So when she tests you, your reaction tells her, can this man hold himself together when I can't? That is the root of respect. Every man looks strong when everything is easy, but the true measure of a man is how he behaves in the presence of uncertainty. And a woman's test creates exactly that, uncertainty. Her tone shifts, her energy changes, her responses slow down, her warmth cools. What she's really asking is, can he remain calm in the spaces where he feels unsure? This is where most men break. They lose their center, they panic, they react impulsively, they try to force clarity, they chase, they explain, they apologize for things they didn't do wrong. But a Stoic man remains still in uncertainty, not because he's numb, because he's anchored. He understands a truth that most men never learn. Her uncertainty does not have to become mine. His emotional state is not dictated by her emotional weather. That is masculine frame. That is emotional maturity. That is Stoic leadership. Not all tests are equal. Some tests are instinctual. Some tests are protective. Some tests are unconscious. But some tests are signs of emotional immaturity. How she handles your silence reveals who she truly is. If she responds with reflection, softness, openness, warmth, honesty, then you are dealing with a woman who knows how to recalibrate. If she responds with games, pettiness, avoidance, manipulation, drama, revenge, energy, then the test revealed her emotional age. This is why silence is powerful. It forces everyone to reveal their true emotional identity. A mature woman will move toward peace. An immature woman will run toward chaos. Your silence exposes the difference, not through force, through contrast. A woman's behavior during your silence reveals the truth of her intentions. Because a woman who values you never lets silence grow into distance. She will reach out. A word, a check-in, a soft question, a warm message. She cannot ignore a man she respects and feels connected to. But a woman who doesn't value you will do nothing, not because she's testing you, but because she's indifferent. And here's the truth that many men avoid. Indifference is louder than rejection. A woman who still feels something will test, will question, will react, will reach out, will soften. A woman who feels nothing will do nothing. Silence reveals the difference. This is what Marcus Aurelius meant when he wrote, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it." When your thoughts are clear, the results become obvious. The test is not confusing. The truth is, silence makes that truth impossible to ignore. You cannot fake independence. You cannot pretend to be a high-value man if you're secretly desperate, because tests expose dependence. If you crumble emotionally, if you chase instantly, if you react impulsively, if you try to fix everything immediately, then the test revealed your dependence. But if you remain calm, purpose-driven, emotionally grounded, and self-respecting, then the test revealed your independence. Women are drawn to emotionally independent men because independence signals strength, leadership, self-worth, direction, masculine clarity. Your silence demonstrates independence without a single word, and independence is one of the strongest attraction triggers in female psychology. At the deepest level, her test reveals something greater than her. It reveals your evolution. Are you still a man who seeks validation? Are you still a man who fears abandonment? Are you still a man who crumbles under pressure? Or are you becoming a grounded man, a disciplined man, a purpose-driven man, a stoic man, a self-respecting man, a man who remains calm regardless of emotional storms? Because every test is actually an invitation to rise, to sharpen, to detach, to grow, to self-govern, to hold your frame, to choose your peace. The test reveals the difference between who you were and who you're becoming. A boy reacts, a man responds, a stoic leads himself. This is why the test matters. It teaches you what level of man you truly are, and that truth is priceless. Silence was the doorway, reflection was the path. Now comes the transformation, ascension. This is the chapter where you stop being a man who responds to women's tests and become a man who transcends them, a man whose presence changes rooms, a man who carries himself with calm gravity, a man whose energy speaks louder than his words, a man who moves with purpose, focus, and masculine certainty. Ascension is not about becoming cold. It's not about becoming detached from life. It's not about shutting down your emotions. Ascension is about becoming the master of your emotions instead of a servant to them. It's about becoming the man you were always capable of being, but couldn't access while living in reaction, because every test she threw at you, every shift, every silence, every confusion, every moment of uncertainty, all of it was preparing you for the man you are becoming now. You're not just leveling up, you're awakening. Let's break down the ascension piece by piece. Emotional sovereignty means one thing. Your emotions belong to you, not to her, not to anyone. You don't get pulled by every emotional wave. You don't respond to every shift in tone. You don't crumble when uncertainty appears. You don't beg for reassurance like a man who doesn't know his worth. You are steady, you are solid, you are centered. And this is the highest form of masculine attraction. A man in control of himself is a man in control of his life. A man who controls nothing within controls nothing around him. You are becoming the kind of man women test not to break, but because they sense something worth following. When you stop reacting, You return to something deeper. Your mission, your craft, your purpose, your legacy. You become the man who wakes up with a plan, not with anxiety. You stop centering women in your mind and start centering growth. You invest in yourself, your mind, your body, your income, your skills, your spirituality, your discipline, your environment, your future. You stop scrolling, you stop chasing, you stop overthinking, you build, you work, you grind, you improve, you evolve, you create. Your focus shifts from, "I hope she texts me," to, "What can I build today?" Your purpose becomes the center of your masculine identity, and that makes you unstoppable. The mark of a Stoic man is not how he behaves in peace, it's how he behaves in pressure. A woman's test used to shake you. Now it barely moves you. Your pulse stays steady. Your breathing stays slow. Your thoughts stay clear. Your presence stays calm. You stop viewing tension as something to react to and begin viewing it as something to understand. Marcus Aurelius said, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it." Your estimate has changed. You no longer catastrophize the moment. You no longer assume the worst. You no longer attach your worth to external validation. You see events as neutral. You see emotions as signals. You see pressure as a teacher. You become the man who is unshakable. That's ascension. Women feel your energy long before they hear your words. And once you stop reacting emotionally, your presence changes. It becomes heavier, more grounded, more silent, more intense, more magnetic. You no longer walk into a room looking for acceptance. You walk in with purpose. Your silence becomes confidence, not fear. Your stillness becomes power, not timidness. Your low reactivity makes people lean in closer. Your emotional steadiness makes women relax around you. Your calm presence feels safe, strong, dominant in the most honorable way. This is the aura of a man who leads himself. Ascension teaches you something profound. Losing your peace is too high a price for keeping someone in your life. A Stoic man does not cling. He does not beg. He does not justify chaos. He does not negotiate with disrespect. Because peace is not negotiable. Your silence taught her this. But now it teaches you. You value yourself enough to walk away from drama, emotional games, inconsistency, manipulation, mixed signals, disrespect, uncertainty, chaos, not because you're cold, but because you're wise. Your peace is your kingdom, and you guard it with calm authority. A woman does not follow a man because he is loud. A woman follows a man because he is steady, because he makes her feel safe, seen, clear, understood, grounded. A man who reacts emotionally creates emotional chaos. A man who responds calmly creates emotional safety. Women don't follow men who are controlled by emotion. They follow men who control emotion. You become a man whose presence feels like structure, whose voice feels like direction, whose actions feel intentional, whose energy feels protective, whose decisions feel grounded, whose silence feels powerful. This is masculine leadership. This is Stoic strength. This is ascension. Once you master silence and emotional restraint, you become immune to emotional manipulation, not because you distrust women, but because you trust yourself. You no longer react to the cold tone, the delayed reply, the subtle test, the emotional shift, the mixed signal, the ego game, the prove yourself energy. Instead, you observe, you evaluate, you respond with calm logic, or you withdraw with dignity, and this makes you dangerous in the best way. Because a man who cannot be manipulated is a man whose value is undeniable. He is not swayed by beauty. He is not controlled by attention. He is not weakened by loneliness. He is not seduced by chaos. He is free. And freedom is the highest form of masculine power. Every great Stoic text uses the mountain as a metaphor. Why? Because the mountain does not move for storms. Storms move around it. Tests move around it. Emotions move around it. People move around it. Life moves around it. But the mountain remains, steady, grounded, silent, powerful. That is what you become when you stop reacting. You become the mountain. A woman's test is no longer a storm that destroys you. It is just weather, temporary, passing, unthreatening. You remain centered, unpredictable in your silence, unmoved by her shifts, unshakable in your energy, untouchable in your peace. This is ascension, not away from emotion but above it. And now that you've become this man, this centered, calm, elevated, disciplined man, the dynamic with her changes forever. Because now she feels something new, not fear, not panic, not anxiety, respect, attraction, curiosity, a pull she cannot ignore. There's a moment a woman never forgets, the moment she realizes your silence wasn't a reaction, it was a transformation. The moment she sees you didn't distance yourself to punish her. You distanced yourself because you outgrew who you were when you needed her validation. The moment she realizes you didn't walk away from her. You walked toward yourself. This moment is the beginning of the return, not your return to her return to you. Because when you elevate, everything around you is forced to respond, including her. A woman feels the shift in a man before she understands it. And once she feels it, her psychology changes. There are 5 stages to a woman's return to a truly stoic, elevated, high-value man. Women are emotional antennas. They sense energy, especially masculine energy, before anything else. When you ascend, your energy changes. Your silence holds weight. Your presence feels deeper. Your eyes are calmer. Your tone is measured. Your responses are intentional. Your boundaries are unapologetic. Your focus is unbreakable. She feels this instantly. You're no longer vibrating at the frequency of neediness. You're vibrating at the frequency of self-respect. You're no longer tense and reactive. You're calm and grounded. This unsettles her in a way that pulls her toward you. She begins asking herself, what changed? What happened to him? Why does he feel stronger? Why does he seem so calm? What is this new confidence? Did I misjudge him? She feels the shift before she understands the source, and that curiosity sparks the beginning of attraction again. Not the old attraction, not the fragile kind, not the superficial excitement, a deeper attraction, a respect-based attraction, a feminine pull toward masculine certainty. This is where uncertainty enters. Not your uncertainty, hers. She starts to wonder about her place in your life, not because you're playing games, but because you're no longer predictable. Before your ascension, she knew exactly what would happen if she pulled away. You'd chase, you'd explain, you'd overinvest, you'd try to fix things, you'd center her emotions above your own. But now, you're grounded, you're patient, you're unavailable to chaos, you're unbothered by distance, you're consumed by purpose, you're focused on becoming a man of value, not a man seeking validation. This confuses her ego and awakens her femininity. She begins to feel something she didn't expect, loss of your attention, loss of your reassurance, loss of your consistency, loss of your predictable energy. She begins to wonder, What if he doesn't need me? What if he's moved on emotionally? What if he's becoming a better version without me? What if another woman will feel this new version of him? What if I'm the one losing him now? Uncertainty creates curiosity. Curiosity creates attention. Attention creates attraction. The power dynamic has shifted, not because you manipulated it, but because you mastered yourself. This is the stage where she begins seeking reconnection, not for validation, but because she misses the man you are becoming. Women don't miss men. They miss energy. They miss presence. They miss how they felt in the presence of that man. Your ascended version creates a feeling she cannot find easily in other men. Your silence becomes magnetic. Your calmness becomes attractive. Your focus becomes inspiring. Your lack of reactivity becomes mysterious. She becomes curious. What happens if I reach out? Will he respond? Will he ignore me? Will he still be the same? Will he match my energy? Will he stay in that calm frame? She feels herself drifting toward you again, not because you chased her, but because you didn't. Your absence carved a space her mind keeps falling into. This is where she starts, viewing your old interactions differently, rereading old messages, checking your socials, looking at your photos, testing small signals, asking mutual friends, trying to understand your silence. Her emotional focus is now on you, without you saying a word. This is the stage where the return becomes intentional. She's no longer passive. She's no longer waiting. She's no longer indifferent. She wants something: your attention, your approval, your acknowledgement, your emotional presence. Not because she needs it, but because she suddenly feels it must be earned. This is where she replies faster, becomes warmer, becomes softer, reaches out, first asks deeper questions, tries to reconnect conversations, compliments you, matches your tone, mirrors your calmness, softens her voice, adopts feminine energy again. She begins showing traits she never showed before: respect, effort, accountability, honesty, vulnerability, intentionality. Your ascension shifted her behavior. Your silence healed her attitude. Your self-respect rebuilt the attraction. This is the moment where she realizes, he's not the same man. If I want him back, I have to approach him differently. This creates a psychological shift. She begins to pursue, not aggressively, not desperately, but with feminine intention. She wants to be seen. She wants to be chosen. She wants to be valued by the elevated version of you. This is the final stage of the return. When a woman truly respects a man, her energy changes completely. She becomes more honest, more gentle, more affectionate, more communicative, more mature, more feminine, more consistent, more invested. She no longer views your silence as a threat. She views it as a standard. She realizes you can't shake a man who knows himself. You can't distract a man with purpose. She was not the lesson, you were. You were the one who needed to learn patience, self-governance, discipline, self-worth, internal control, detached compassion, masculine sovereignty, emotional grounding, purpose-driven living. You realize she didn't test you to break you. Life used her to elevate you, and you rose. That is why, from this day forward, you move differently. You love differently. You speak differently. You walk differently. You choose differently. Because you are not the man who once reacted to every shift. You are the man who responds with purpose. You are the man who leads himself. You are the man who ascends. You are the man who wears the crown. And now, here is your identity ritual, the moment your audience locks in. If this message awakened something in you, if you felt the shift, if you recognized the man you're becoming, then declare it. Comment below. I choose discipline. I choose clarity. I choose peace. Because the moment you type it, you're not just watching a video anymore. You're stepping into your identity. You're stepping into your masculine power. You're stepping into the next chapter of your life. And if you want more stoic, masculine, transformational messages, subscribe to Stoicism Temple and continue this journey of mastery. Your ascension has already begun.